Good evening and welcome to today's edition of Pointing to the Cross, and I want to read to you a passage from Isaiah chapter 48, and I'm going to read a couple of verses, verse 17 and 18. And the first verse, verse 17, says this, a great promise. It says, Thus says the Lord your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am the Lord your God, who teaches you to profit, who leads you by the way you should go. Now, a lot of people will stop there at that verse because, that's a great promise and that's a very positive message. And, who doesn't want the Lord Almighty teaching them to profit and showing them in the way that they should go? But then you keep reading in verse 18 and it says, Oh, that you had heeded my commandments. Then your peace would have been like a river, and your righteousness like the waves of the sea. Sometimes when you're training a child up in the way that they should go, it's not always a pleasant experience. Sometimes children are wayward. Sometimes children stray from what they've been taught. Sometimes they rebel. I can remember a few times when I would be doing something that my dad knew was going to not end up well. Sometimes he would just sit back and watch. And when something bad happened, he'd look at me and say, I knew that was going to happen. And there were times I thought, well, if you knew that, why didn't you say something? But sometimes we learn better from our mistakes. And sometimes God allows those things to come into our life, those teachable moments that He uses to teach us how to profit and how to go in the way that we should go. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we shouldn't always be so quick to curse our crisis. And we shouldn't always be so quick to just look at the positives, because sometimes the negatives in life God is using to change us into the image of Christ just as well. So be thankful that God will use any means necessary to cause His children to profit. And if you're in that position as a parent, you know that you'd move heaven and earth yourself to help your children. God does that same thing for us. Isn't that a beautiful thought? Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Pointing to the Cross.